what if the very instinct that makes you successful at your job or your relationships or just your life in general?
Right, that relentless drive.
Exactly, that relentless drive to immediately fix whatever is broken. What if that is the exact mechanism preventing you from healing your own burnout?
It's a huge paradox, honestly.
It really is. I mean, think about it for a second. If you are listening to this on your commute right now, or I don't know, maybe you're pacing around your kitchen,
Yeah.
do a quick scan of your body.
You're probably tensing up without even knowing it.
Yeah, you are probably tensing your shoulders or like clenching your jaw right now. And if I pointed that out to you, your immediate instinct would be to force your shoulders down.
Right, take a huge, unnatural gulp of air.
Yes, exactly. You'd try to mechanically fix the tension because we treat our minds and our bodies like car engines.
We really do. We just want a diagnostic machine to spit out an error code.
Right. Give me the code so I can swap out the bad sensor and just get back on the road.
But the thing is, when you apply that mechanical, hyperproductive problem solving to human psychology,
To trauma or deep exhaustion.
yeah, the engine doesn't start. It actually catches fire.
It catches fire.
Right.
Which is exactly why we are here today. Welcome to this deep dive.
So glad to be here.
We are thrilled you are joining us because today we are ripping the lid off that impossible equation. We got our hands on a really, really fascinating piece of source material.
It's incredible. It's an actual production script.
Right. The behind-the-scenes blueprint for the first episode of a show called The Inner Horizon, The Light of Awareness.
And it's not just a transcript of what they said. That's the key.
Exactly. Our mission today is to deconstruct how the creators of this script built a psychological roadmap for navigating trauma,
Right.
using only the deceptively simple tool of awareness.
And the unique value of having this production script is that we can actually see the psychological manipulation happening in real time.
And you mean manipulation in a positive sense?
Right. Oh, absolutely. In a therapeutic sense. We aren't just reading the host's philosophical arguments. We are reading the explicit stage directions,
The pacing and
the highly specific musical cues. I mean, we are looking at the architectural scaffolding designed to physically alter the listener's nervous system.
Right. They aren't just talking about healing. They are engineering an entire environment for it. So let's get right into the mechanics of how they actually pull this off.
Let's do it.
So the script opens with gentle acoustic guitar and soft ambient pads. The host establishes this really warm tone, but then they immediately drop their core thesis.
Which is a metaphor. Yeah.
Yeah, a metaphor for what awareness actually is. The stage directions explicitly instruct the host to shift to a calm, reflective tone with slower pacing.
And the music changes there too.
Right, the music is commanded to transition into a soft piano underscore. So over this highly constructed audio bed, the host says, think of awareness as turning on a light in a dark room.
The furniture was always there.
You just couldn't see it. Our emotions, our trauma patterns, they exist whether we notice them or not. And healing begins, according to the script, when we shine a light on them without judgment.
It's a vivid image.
Hmm.
But I think the heavy lifting is being done by that phrase, without judgment.
How so?
Well, they are attempting to separate the existence of a feeling from your perception of it.
Okay, break that down for me.
Sure. So the anxiety or the burnout, it has a shape. It takes up space in your psychic room.
Mm-hmm.
You have probably been, bumping your shins against it in the dark for years.
Okay, I understand the metaphor, but let me just push back on this premise immediately.
Go for it.
Because my visceral reaction to reading that part was just intense skepticism.
Really? Why?
Because if I walk into a dark, messy room and turn on the light, my first instinct is not to stand there and passively observe the clutter.
You want to fix it.
I want to grab a trash bag and start cleaning. I want to move the furniture. I want to fix it. So how realistic is it to ask a listener who is likely tuning into a show about healing because they are in actual pain to just stare at their emotional baggage without the overwhelming urge to start rearranging it?
It's incredibly difficult, which is exactly why the creators are targeting our modern, hyperproductive programming.
We're totally wired that way.
We really are.
Yeah.
We are conditioned to equate observation with complicity. We think if we just look at a mess without cleaning it, we are somehow endorsing the mess.
Oh, that's an interesting way to put it, endorsing the mess.
Right. But neurologically speaking, if you rush to fix an emotional mess in a panic, you are still operating from your sympathetic nervous system.
The fight or flight state.
Exactly. When you judge the mess, your brain releases cortisol. You aren't actually seeing the room clearly at all. You are just reacting to a perceived threat.
You're treating your own mind as a hostile environment.
Yes. So the judgment itself is blinding.
Wow. So you turn on the light, but the cortisol spike basically puts a blindfold right back over your eyes.
Precisely. And this is where the production notes are doing that covert work we talked about.
The music and the pacing.
Right. The script doesn't just ask you to suspend judgment, it biologically assists you in doing so.
Okay, unpack that for me. How does a script biologically assist you?
Notice the transition from the acoustic guitar to the soft piano underscore, combined with that slower pacing. When we say they're trying to downregulate the nervous system, we are talking about forcing a shift.
From sympathetic to parasympathetic.
Exactly. From that fight or flight state into the rest and digest state. Slower auditory pacing naturally encourages respiratory entrainment.
Respiratory entrainment. That means your breathing matches the sound.
Yes, your heart rate and your breathing subtly attempt to match the tempo of what you are hearing. They are artificially lowering your heart rate so that when the light turns on, you don't panic.
Oh, wow. They're essentially padding the walls of the room before they turn the light on.
That's a great way to say it. And they prove this immediately in the text.
Right, because right after dropping the darkroom metaphor, the script literally calls for a pause. The guitar fades completely. The piano isolates.
And then the host runs the listener through a somatic exercise.
Yeah, the host says, notice your breath. Notice how your body feels. Notice the thoughts running through your mind.
And what's crucial is what they don't say.
Right. They pointedly do not tell you to take a deep breath, which is like the cliche podcast instruction everyone uses.
Or to clear your mind.
Yeah, they don't say that either. Just notice.
It is a brilliant structural reinforcement. Because think about it, if they had moved straight to the next point, the listener would still be in a cognitive, analytical state.
They'd be trying to figure out how to fix the dark room.
Exactly. By forcing a pause and bringing attention to the breath without trying to alter it, the script demands that the listener practice that state of simple, non-judgmental awareness.
You are feeling the concept rather than just intellectualizing it. Okay, so we have established this baseline of passive observation. But, I mean, let's be real. Passive observation doesn't cure severe burnout.
No, it doesn't.
And the script knows this. Because the next segment takes this abstract theory and collides it with severe, real-world distress.
This is the interview segment, right?
Yes, the interview with the resilience coach. And the atmospheric shift here is stark.
What do the stage directions say?
They call for light percussion with hopeful strings. And the host's tone is instructed to become energetic but empathetic.
That's a very specific vibe.
It really is. They introduce a guest who specializes in severe trauma and major life transitions. So we are suddenly dealing with high-stakes human suffering.
And the coach delivers a quote that is just...
I think it forms the entire architectural spine of this document.
Let's hear it.
The coach says, when someone realizes, I'm not broken, I'm hurting, it shifts the narrative. They stop fighting themselves and start listening.
The linguistic pivot from broken to hurting.
Yes. I want to dig into the semantics of this, because it maps perfectly onto my earlier point about treating ourselves like car engines.
Right, the mechanical fix.
Yeah. Broken is a state of mechanical failure. A broken machine is useless, defective, and requires external intervention to be functional again.
It's a permanent state until it's forcefully altered.
Exactly. Hurting, on the other hand, is an organic state. A living organism hurts, and hurting implies a temporary state that responds to time, to internal care, and to an organic process.
To really understand why this specific linguistic shift allows people to stop fighting themselves, we have to look at some deep psychology.
Okay, lay it on me.
Have you ever heard of the concepts of egosyntonic versus ego-dystonic behaviors?
No, I haven't. What does that mean?
Okay, so when you label your core self as broken, that belief becomes egosyntonic, meaning your brain accepts it as a fundamental truth of your identity.
You internalize a profound sense of defectiveness.
Exactly. And if you believe your core identity is defective, your mind essentially mounts an autoimmune response against itself.
Wait, what? An autoimmune response against your own identity?
Yes. You are at war with your own existence.
That is a terrifying concept. You are trying to destroy the very thing you are trying to save.
Because you cannot heal an enemy you are actively trying to destroy.
Wow.
But the moment you adopt the narrative of hurting, you move the problem. It goes from an egosyntonic identity trait to an ego-dystonic temporary state.
Meaning it's not who I am, it's just something I'm experiencing.
Precisely. You are no longer fundamentally defective. You are a whole, functional human being who just happens to be experiencing a localized wound.
And a wound doesn't need to be destroyed, it needs to be tended.
Which is why the text says this shift allows the person to start listening. You simply cannot hear your own internal needs if you are shouting over them with accusations of being permanently broken.
That completely recontextualizes those stage directions for me.
The music notes.
Yeah. I was initially wondering why they brought in light percussion to talk about trauma. It felt almost, I don't know, too upbeat.
But percussion initiates rhythm.
Right. It engages the motor cortex. It is the sound of mobilization. Moving from broken to hurting is not a passive realization. It is the active cessation of internal hostilities.
You're putting down your weapons.
Exactly. The strings provide the emotional resonance, and the percussion provides the forward momentum to actually start tending the wound.
It is the auditory equivalent of shifting from a freeze response into active, hopeful agency. The script is musically telling the audience, we have observed the dark room, and we have realized the furniture isn't going to kill us. Now we can navigate it.
That's brilliant. And to prove that this isn't just theoretical poetry, the script provides a concrete case study.
The woman who thought she was failing.
Yes. The coach shares an anecdote about a client, a woman who was trapped in an internal narrative of complete failure. The text says she repeatedly told herself, I'm failing at life.
That was her version of being a broken machine.
Exactly. But the coach reveals that through the act of journaling, the woman discovered she wasn't failing at all. She was grieving.
Such a powerful distinction.
It really is. The script reads that awareness changed everything. She gave herself permission to feel, and from there, she began to rebuild.
And how does the coach wrap up that segment?
The coach says healing is not a straight line, but awareness is the compass.
The introduction of the compass metaphor is vital because it clarifies the limits of awareness.
Okay, before we get to the compass, I want to stop and interrogate the mechanism here.
The journaling.
Yes. The text specifically highlights journaling as the catalyst. It doesn't say she went to a retreat or meditated for 10 days or just thought really hard while looking out a window.
Right. It specifies journaling.
It says through journaling she realized, why? Why couldn't she just use her intellect to think her way out of feeling like a failure?
That's a great question.
I mean, why does this script isolate the physical analog act of writing things down as the trigger that allowed her to access this massive realization of grief?
It comes down to the limitations of our neural pathways.
Yeah.
And how we process rumination.
Okay, break that down for me.
When you are simply thinking, your internal monologue is incredibly fast. It's often cyclical, and it's highly abstract. Think of a thought as a sled going down a snowy hill.
A sled on a hill, okay.
If your internal loop is just saying, I am failing, that sled is taking the exact same path down the hill thousands of times.
Oh, I see. So it carves a deep groove.
A deep, icy groove into the snow.
Whoa.
And eventually, it becomes neurologically impossible to steer the sled out of that groove using only willpower. Your brain defaults to the path of least resistance.
Which is the failure pathway. So you are trapped in an echo chamber where the only sound is your own self-judgment.
Exactly. But the physical act of journaling introduces a massive neurological roadblock.
How so?
It forces you to recruit entirely different areas of the brain. You have to engage your motor cortex to move the pen.
Right.
You have to engage Broca's and Wernicke's areas to translate abstract emotional panic into structured language. You physically cannot write as fast as you can panic.
Wow, it decelerates the cognitive process.
Completely. By externalizing the chaos onto a physical page, you pull the sled out of the groove. You take the overwhelming, nebulous feeling of failing and turn it into a tangible object outside of yourself.
You are putting the furniture in the middle of the room where you can actually walk around it and inspect it.
Yes, that's exactly it.
And when she finally inspected it objectively, the cognitive dissonance shattered. She realized the furniture she was looking at wasn't failure at all, it was grief.
And notice the specific language the script uses next. She gave herself permission to feel.
Why is that phrasing so important?
Because the label of failure carries inherent judgment. It implies you are doing something wrong that you must immediately correct. But grief is a universally understood, uncontrollable human process.
You don't fail at grief, you simply endure it.
Exactly. Naming it accurately removed the judgment, which, going back to the first metaphor, allowed the light to stay on.
Which perfectly aligns with the coach's conclusion about the compass. I love that they used a compass instead of a map.
A map shows you the whole terrain and the destination.
Exactly. And a compass doesn't do any of that. It doesn't move you an inch. It doesn't clear the brambles out of your path. It merely tells you where you are standing right now and which way is true north.
It is an orientation tool, not a transportation tool.
That's a great distinction.
The realization that she was grieving didn't magically bring back whatever she had lost. It didn't fix her life or suddenly remove all the pain.
But it immediately stopped her from running full speed in the wrong direction.
Right, the direction of trying to fix a failure that didn't even exist.
Yeah.
It oriented her toward the actual work of processing her grief.
Okay, so we have the dark room, we have the shift from broken to hurting, and we have the compass of accurate naming. Conceptually, this is airtight.
It's a very solid framework.
But the creators of this script know their audience. They know a listener is sitting there thinking, great theory. Now what do I actually do on a Tuesday morning when I feel like I'm falling apart?
Right, we need application.
And they anticipate that friction perfectly by transitioning into a segment literally called Practical Potential.
This is where they operationalize the philosophy into a behavioral framework.
Right. And again, the stage directions dictate an encouraging, upbeat tone, and the background music completely changes to a light, rhythmic piano, subtle.
They are moving the listener from deep, reflective emotional mining into crisp, actionable logistics.
Yes. They instruct the listener to pause once a day, physically set a timer, and ask themselves 3 sequential questions.
What are the questions?
Number 1, what am I feeling right now? Number 2, where do I feel it in my body? And number 3, what do I need in this moment?
And they have to write it down.
Right. The instruction is to write those answers down, even if they're messy. The script claims that repeating this exact practice builds the awareness needed to uncover patterns, which are the doorways to growth.
It's a very targeted exercise.
It is, but let me stop there, because that second question is a massive curveball.
Where do I feel it in my body?
Yes. This entire script, up until this exact second, has been a deep dive into cognitive processing. We've been talking about internal narratives, the linguistics of trauma, journaling out thoughts, grieving versus failing.
It's all been very mental.
It has all been localized entirely in the mind. Why, in the practical application phase, does a script about mental healing suddenly demand a somatic physical check-in?
It does seem like a leap.
I mean, why do I need to know what my left knee is doing if I'm trying to process burnout?
Because the separation of mind and body is a cultural illusion. And it is an illusion that severely limits trauma recovery.
So what are the creators doing here?
They are drawing on concepts rooted in somatic experiencing and interoception. We often treat emotions as abstract ghosts haunting our prefrontal cortex. But biologically, an emotion is a physiological event.
It's physical.
It is a chemical release that alters your physical state.
So the anxiety isn't just a thought about being anxious. It is the physical constriction of the blood vessels.
Exactly. Trauma and chronic stress live in the nervous system. They often manifest as physical tension, digestive issues, or chronic pain.
Right.
Have you heard of the vagus nerve?
I have, but remind me how it works in this context.
So the vagus nerve is constantly sending signals from your gut and your organs back up to your brain.
Okay.
If your brain is telling you, hey, I am perfectly calm, but your chest is incredibly tight and your jaw is locked, your brain will eventually register that physical tension as a threat and release stress hormones anyway.
Wow. So your body overrides your thoughts.
Yes, you cannot think your way out of a physiological state.
Right.
By asking, where do I feel it in my body, the script forces you to bridge that dissociative gap.
It is forcing you to ground the abstract thought into physical reality. If you are stuck in that cyclical echo chamber in your head, checking your physical body pulls the ripcord on the rumination.
You have to be profoundly present in the current second to identify that your stomach is in knots.
It is an anchor.
It really is. Let's look at the sequence of the 3 questions as a complete diagnostic tool.
Okay. Question 1 is, what am I feeling?
Right. That engages the cognitive naming process. We saw the power of that with the grief versus failure anecdote.
Then question 2, where do I feel it?
That engages interoception. It validates the physical reality of the emotion and interrupts the rumination.
And question 3, what do I need?
That moves the individual from mere observation to self-compassion.
But the linchpin of this entire exercise is the final instruction. Write down your answers, even if they're messy.
That word messy is definitely not an accident.
It is a direct callback to the dark room. It is the practical application of without judgment.
Exactly.
Because if I am trying to figure out what I need, and my prefrontal cortex is heavily editing my responses so I sound like a perfectly balanced, enlightened person in my own journal,
Then you are faking the data.
right, I am rearranging the furniture before I even turn the light on.
That is precisely the danger. If you feel compelled to write a profound poetic entry about your spiritual journey, you are still performing. You are still judging.
You're not being honest with yourself.
No. The instruction to allow for messy data is crucial because the raw, unfiltered data is the only data that matters.
Give me an example of messy data.
Messy data is writing, I feel rage. I feel it burning in the back of my neck. I need to scream into a pillow.
That is messy.
It isn't pretty,
Hmm.
but it is accurate.
And the script argues that this daily collection of messy data is what eventually reveals the underlying patterns. You don't spot the pattern on day one.
No, it takes time.
But if you do this for a month, you suddenly look back at the messy data and realize, wait, every single time I have a status meeting with my boss, I record a feeling of panic in my chest and a need to hide.
And once you see the pattern, you have found the doorway. You cannot walk through a door you cannot see.
The data collection is the compass doing its work over time.
Exactly right.
Which brings us to the final movement of the script, the closing note.
How does the audio shift here?
The audio architecture shifts one final time. We hear calm, ambient pads with a slow beat, and the host is directed to adopt a soothing, hopeful tone.
Setting the stage for the final takeaway.
Yes, they deliver the concluding thesis to the listener. Healing doesn't start with grand gestures. It starts with noticing. Awareness is the seed. From that seed grows compassion, resilience, and the potential to become more than you imagine.
Such a powerful wrap-up.
It then previews the next episode about resilience and signs off with the instruction. Until then, keep noticing, keep breathing, and keep reaching for your inner horizon.
Nice.
I want to look at how systematically this script has evolved its metaphors, because it reveals a brilliant psychological progression.
It really moves from the immediate to the enduring.
Exactly. We started with the light in the dark room. That is a sudden binary event, a flash of illumination that reveals what is immediately present.
And then we move to the compass.
Right. A compass is an active tool. It requires you to hold it, interpret it, and choose a direction. It implies movement and navigation through a complex environment.
And now, at the very end, we arrive at the seed.
A seed implies organic, unforced growth. It requires time, environment, and patience.
And it requires incredibly low stakes.
Yes. I think the most powerful psychological relief offered in this entire script is the explicit instruction that you do not need a grand gesture.
Which is huge for someone who is burned out.
Totally. When you are deeply burned out, the concept of healing feels insurmountable. It feels like you need to quit your job, divorce your spouse, move to a cabin in the woods, and reinvent your entire cellular structure.
It's too much.
Your brain calculates the energy required for a grand gesture and immediately shuts down.
It triggers what we call a dopamine prediction error.
A dopamine prediction error.
Yeah, the brain perceives the goal as way too massive for the available energy, so it provides zero motivation.
It just gives up before you even start.
Exactly. By stripping away the pressure of the grand gesture, the script is hacking the motivation system. The host says, as you go through this week, remember, you don't have to fix everything at once. Just notice. Awareness is enough.
For an audience that has spent a lifetime trying to forcefully repair their own brokenness, the idea that merely noticing is a complete, sufficient, and successful action is radically liberating.
Awareness is enough.
It completely dismantles the impossible equation we talked about at the beginning. You don't have to fix the engine, you just have to acknowledge the car is parked.
And the genius of the script is how it ties this minimal effort to the promise of eventual strength.
Right.
If awareness is the seed, then resilience, which they preview for the next episode as bouncing back, is the harvest.
You don't have to force the resilience today.
No, you just have to plant the seed of noticing, and the resilience will organically grow from that soil.
And they structurally mirror that simplicity in the final seconds of the audio. The instruction to keep breathing over the slow beat is a perfect loop back to the somatic exercise in the very first segment.
Oh, that's true.
They opened the door by asking the listener to simply notice their breath, took them through the dark room, shifted their identity from broken to hurting, gave them a daily compass protocol, and then quietly walked them back out the same door.
The audio environment was entirely cyclical.
Proving that the listener doesn't need to go anywhere to heal, they just need to inhabit the space they are already in.
It is a masterclass in behavioral design, disguised as a podcast script.
So, if we synthesize everything we have extracted from this document today, we explored the biological necessity of non-judgment, Understanding that turning on the light in the dark room only works if we don't flood our system with the cortisol of self-criticism.
Right.
We analyze the profound difference between being broken and being hurting, and how ego-dystonic framing allows us to put down our weapons and stop the internal autoimmune response.
Which is so crucial.
We broke down how the physical act of journaling derails our neural loops, allowing us to accurately name a feeling like grief instead of failure, and use that awareness as an orienting compass.
And then we got to the pause.
Yes, we unpacked the three-question daily pause, revealing why checking in with our physical body is the ultimate circuit breaker for cognitive rumination, leading to the messy data that eventually reveals our patterns.
And finally, the seed.
Finally, we looked at the sheer relief of replacing grand gestures with the simple organic seed of noticing.
It is a dense, highly functional roadmap, and understanding the scaffolding beneath it makes it infinitely more applicable.
It really does. But as we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over.
It's a big one.
We have spent this entire time unpacking how brilliant it is to use awareness as a compass and how liberating it is to simply turn on the light in the dark room. But the script operates on the assumption that seeing the truth is inherently a relief.
Right, but what if it isn't?
Exactly. What happens when the light reveals that the furniture you have been bumping into, the deep emotional patterns you finally uncover, is something you truly, desperately did not want to acknowledge?
That's a terrifying moment.
It is. If healing isn't a straight line, as the coach said, are you prepared for the compass to point you directly toward the messy, uncomfortable, and devastating work of grieving before you can ever hope to reach the resilience they promise comes next?
That's the real work.
It really is. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We will see you next time.